Thailand. Game on.
About 2/3 of the movie have some big crowd or another. We have lemur crowds and fusa crowds. Lemur crowds and fusa crowds.
I couldn't believe how they did the water. The water and the fire in the film is just so realistic.
We have a lot of water on Madagascar. Quite a few sequences are either on the open ocean or on the beach. We had to design systems where we're literally hand animating the shape of the waves, and we can totally control the timing, the height. There's one sequence where Marty the zebra is actually surfing on the waves, and we had to be able to totally choreograph what the wave was doing. We have a pretty big fire sequence. The artists working on effects like that, they have to come up with a system that does fire and looks believable as fire, but that they can also control and keyframe and be very specific about how they play with it, how they choreograph it.
I would say probably about 2/3 of the movie have some big crowd or another. We have lemur crowds and fusa crowds. Lemur crowds and fusa crowds are newer for us because they're the first time we're doing furry crowds. So the complexity has gone way up, and the challenge has been how to do hundreds of furry lemurs bouncing around in a jungle environment and how to get that rendered in computer graphics.
We've got thousands and thousands of plants in a single shot, and in order to make all that move, we actually have to program that.
Oh no! Ah!
The fact that something takes place on a beach means that there's going to be footprints, and there's going to be sand kicking up, there's going to be water, there's going to be sea foam, and all these things all of a sudden became, oh, how are we going to do that? And it turns out these guys pulled it off and were able to do it.
Oh, come on. This isn't the end. This is a whole new beginning.
I think at the core of this movie, is no matter where you are on this planet or what walk of life you're from, when you have family, you have a home. And that's ultimately what these four best friends discover.
This is the first time I've had the experience of taking it from the beginning, which was just years and years ago. I was 12 when we started working on this movie.
My daughter loved it, and halfway through the movie, she's like, "Daddy, is that you?" Yeah, that's me, honey. My daddy's the voice of a zebra. Of course he is.
Oh, you should take Lexington.
Move it!
Okay, we should take Lexington. Giraffes rule. They are the coolest animal. That's the obvious overall message of the film.
Where are you giants from?
We're from New York.
All hail the New York Giants!
You always hope that when you participate in movies like this, that they will be as lasting as all those other great children classics. I definitely hope for that my grandkids will be excited to see Madagascar.
Active and fun, and a lot of the influences, well, of course, this film needed to be really active and fun, and a lot of the influences, well, of course, Tex Avery and Chuck Jones in the 30s and 40s, that they had done this animation that was very broad, very big, very comedic and slapstick.
Oh, I got it! Oh! Would you give a guy a break?
But you can't just lift ideas and then put them into 3D and expect them to work. So we really started a little bit of trial and error. Let's try stretching this thing and see what happens. And then there's a lot of problems. When you have fur, it doesn't work just like a simple cartoon would work.
To really get the characters to squash and stretch and have a huge range of motion, being able to take their jaw and drop it down to their chest, that was something new for us to develop.
We would normally have limits on our characters, and we would never expect to raise the arm beyond this. This film, we blew those out the door. We have to be able to squish Alex down to 1 foot high, and he's 8 feet high. We have to be able to stretch his arm out to 11 feet long.
To do that kind of work, we have to be thinking of it ahead of time so that we can set up these puppets, is sort of what they are, these virtual puppets, so that they have that kind of a flexibility. And what that then allows us to do is to really get some really fun snap and action in the animation that we hope is pushing the boundary for computer animation.
And I think it's one of the things that visually is most entertaining about the movie. They're funny.
Bringing Madagascar to the screen was a 4-year effort completed by nearly 250 artists on 2 separate production campuses in California.
Production is actually making it come to life.
Here we go. You record the actors and take these storyboards and you watch it like you would a film, even though it's just drawings one after another. From that point on, just more and more gets added to the mix. It becomes this huge collaborative process.
Our artists are allowed to dream more, to imagine more, and the computer's their friend. We don't have 200 technologists who are mad scientists down somewhere trying to invent gizmos and then we figure out how to use them. It's actually the exact reverse of that. We come up with a story and we're going to need a lot of special tools to bring that to life. And that's what those 200 mad scientists went off to do.
Before the actual computer animation can begin, clay figurines and miniature models are built from sketches and paintings, so the filmmakers have a 3-dimensional perspective of the characters and locations for the movie.
I'll do what is exactly in the painting, but I get to fill in the 360 degrees, what's behind it, what's on the side of it. So that's the freedom that I get, is to flesh out a lot of these environments. I did a model of the zoo, and I did the boat, and I did probably a whole forest of baobab trees. In reality, I had no idea that these things even existed, but for some reason I spent a personal good investment of my life with them for like 5 months, studying these bizarre-looking trees.
Ow! To get the characters to move the way the animators want them to perform requires the skill of a group of character technical directors.
We're in charge of overseeing all of the creation of every character in Madagascar. We identify the technologies necessary to pull off the character's performance for the film.
Then there's also the aesthetic part of what we do. So folks here really have to have a good eye to know when, oh, this smile looks really good, this frown doesn't look good. So there's all these aesthetic skills that they really need as well.
One of the character technical directors, Penny Layton, designed a stunt tongue system which allows the character to interact with its own tongue. The first tongue gag we saw is when Alex lands on the beach. He's scraping sand out of his mouth and off his tongue. I expect we'll see the stunt tongue much more often in the future.
Once the virtual puppets have been built, it's time for the animators to have fun.
The challenge of animating these animals is not to make them appear as men walking around in suits. We want to make the zebra a zebra. He moves like a zebra. I can't say he acts like a zebra.
This place is crack-a-lacking.
But we want him to move like a zebra.
This is the life.
That just say Grand Central Station or Cherokee Nation. Baby, we were born to be here, and I am not going HMO.
The vocal performances are important. I think you'd have a hard time making a really entertaining film if you didn't start with good vocal. For an animator, if you hear someone who doesn't understand what it means to perform for animation, you sort of have a hard time imagining what you can do with that line. When you get a great performance,
Go for me, get it up! Get it, I can't see! I can't see!
I can see the ideas will just come.
Madagascar also had the good fortune of utilizing some of the talents from other DreamWorks films, like Shrek and Shrek 2, to round out the movie's crazy cast of characters.
I saw in the Times that Donald Trump is speaking at Stony Brook. Well, of course we're going to throw poo at him.
Along with being one of the directors of Shrek 2, I was a plethora of voices in the movie, one being the gingerbread man.
I moved from this voice here over to
Madagascar, where I am doing now a role called Mason the Monkey.
Mason the Monkey, which is a really bad impression of James Mason I used to do. Wake up, you filthy monkey.
His tea is perfect, and he likes his paper in the morning. Bagel, cream cheese, just so, you know. So it's that kind of a person. It's like, you know, they're monkeys, but they're very high-class monkeys.
If you have any poo, fling it now.
I can't believe how they did the water. The water and the fire in the film is just so realistic.
We have a lot of water on Madagascar. Quite a few sequences are either on the open ocean or on the beach. We had to design systems.
A group of displaced penguins who are on a mission of their own.
The penguins are really there for comedy relief.
And they really are whack. You know, they're just nuts.
They just want to get out of the zoo. And they're this team, well-oiled machine who stick together, follow orders, get the job done. We're going to face extreme peril.
Private probably won't survive.
Once on the island, Alex, Marty, Melman, and Gloria encounter wildlife much different from what they were used to in the Central Park Zoo.
Well, basically what's going on in Madagascar, we're there. We're really kind of party kind of animals. We have one main threat, which is the Fusa, and the Fusa eat us. And we happen to witness the lion scare the Fusa off. So we think, oh, well, now maybe we got some friends. So we try to befriend these guys. As we go through the story, I'm always leery of the lion, Ben Stiller. I'm just not, everybody else seems to think this guy's a great guy, but, me being the smart one, number two, I'm thinking, I don't know, guys.
What big teeth you have. Man, shame on you, Maurice. You do not see that you have insulted the freak?
Each one of our movies is meant to take our audience to someplace they've never been before. Madagascar, we know we're going to go to this amazing, world that nobody's ever, really imagined or seen before, at least not the way we've done it.
It was an out-and-out comedy. We knew that from the beginning. So that kind of gave us some ideas initially.
We really wanted to push the design. We wanted to create characters that were overly stylized, not based on reality, so that we could just have a lot of fun with how they looked and how they moved. They could be very human-like when we wanted them to.
Just smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave. The main characters were designed by Craig Kelman, and he's a fantastic artist. He based his original designs off Golden Book, those old children's books, which were very simplified, straights against curves.
I was also influenced by the old Viewmasters, the old 50s Viewmaster. I thought it'd be cool to have a slick 3D movie that looked like those.
Craig put up his drawings, Jeffrey looked at him, he said, home run.
I just kind of did a bunch of sketches, and they picked some out. They said, we like these, these 4 drawings, and they just happen to be very graphic, very two-dimensional characters, and the kind of designs that they hadn't attempted in 3D before.
Alex is really our lead character. He's very chesty with a small waist, but he also needs to be very expressive. So there's this huge, very simple mane that frames his face.
I love his look. I think his hair is incredible. I wish I had Alex's hair. I'm mesmerized by it. Where he shakes his head and it's like this sort of ripple effect. Kind of got like a White Snake, the band White Snake sort of feel. It's that 80s super rock thing.
The unique character designs for Madagascar also carried over into the look of the two worlds.
Still in New York. Abort!
New York City and the island of Madagascar itself.
Now, it's not photorealism because that's not what we do in animation. To animate means to make bigger than life. So we've created our sort of bigger than life version of New York City. The sort of urban hustle and bustle of it all contrasted then with Madagascar, which is truly set down in the middle of nature, and there's nothing but nature. And then to make that nature also bigger than life.
We wanted to make this a cartoony, more graphic and stylized world. But it's not a fantasy world. It is New York City, and it is the Central Park Zoo. More of the 50s and 60s than it actually is now.
That's right!
We built it all like a regular world, and then we threw all the lines off kilter.
We called it a whack factor. There's too much whack factor on that building.
We wanted to convey the warmth of New York and the sweetness that we were feeling in the zoo.
They took this sort of version of it and really stylized it in a way that reminded me of a lot of cartoons that I saw growing up.
He's on your left after Vanderbilt. Okay. You hit the Chrysler Building, you've gone too far. Thanks a lot, officer.
There's great contrast between New York and Madagascar, which is just full of life and color, natural beauty, and otherworldly beauty as well.
For Madagascar.
Who actually never went to the jungle. He'd go to the botanical gardens in France and get ideas, then paint these wonderful, exotic, mysterious, Shangri-La type paintings. This kind of almost childlike, naive vision for what a tropical jungle would be became our inspiration for Madagascar.
But as story developed and characters developed, it made more sense to us that the film take on a more homogeneous look. And so the style of our characters began to influence the style of our jungle.
Madagascar's stylized look isn't the only new visual direction the producers took the film. They also
squash and stretch. Different parts of our characters need to be able to squash and stretch and have different timings. We use squash and stretch in this movie to really inflict a lot of pain on our characters. If Alex comes down on his head, first his head might squash, and then his shoulders might squash into his head, and then his chest might squash, and his hips might squash. So they all compress, and they store this energy, and then they pop out of it. And this happens quite often.
This film needed to be really active, high class.
And the fire in the film is just so realistic.
We have a lot of water on Madagascar. Quite a few sequences are either on the open ocean or on the beach. We had to design systems where a lot of fun. And I think that's
Enemies. He doesn't realize that his friends are actually food that he might eat.
I don't see any.
There's Marty, the zebra. Then there's Melman, who's the hypochondriacal giraffe.
Party animals.
Works for me.
Including Ben Stiller, Chris Rock, David Schwimmer, Jada Pinkett Smith.
These are New Yorkers. These are like dyed-in-the-wool New Yorkers. There's Alex the lion. There's Marty the zebra. And there's Melman, who's the hypochondriacal giraffe that David Schwimmer plays. And Jada Pinkett Smith plays Gloria, who's the hippo, who's like a very sweet, feminine, strong-minded, sexy hippo. Which is nice to see a sexy hippo on film, because I don't think we've seen one for a while. It's incredibly pampered. As Alex says, there's fans, there's food, there's pampering. What more could you want?
Here come the people. Oh, I love the people. It's fun people, fun time. Woo!
I play Alex. He loves the adulation of the crowds, and he's very comfortable in his world. But then, by being forced out of his element, his environment, he grows as a lion.
Ben Stiller is a great Alex. You know, Alex is this guy that's confident when he's got all of his ducks in a row, but when things start to fall apart,
Get me out of here!
Alex does too.
Marty! Yeah! All right! That's right!
I'm Marty the zebra, and I come up with this whole scam to get out of the zoo.
Let's go. What? The wild. Come on, you and me together.
huge fan, and I've always wanted to be the voice of some character. And when I heard it was a giraffe, I was just really excited. I don't know if it was a thing that they had written or not, but when they were talking about how he was neurotic and a hypochondriac and paranoid, I felt that, sorry, that's the spot. Oh, I'm in heaven.
He's happy with his phobias, you know, complete hypochondriac.
beautiful, and it still works perfectly for this film.
After a hilarious series of events lands the Zoosters on the island of Madagascar, they encounter different kinds of party animals, featuring the voices of Sacha Baron Cohen.
Give me some love. The plan works. The plan works. Cover.
Andy Richter.
They are savages.
And Cedric the Entertainer.
Toodaloo. Nobody says that anymore. I love that one. Toodaloo!
Cedric the Entertainer is my favorite character in the movie, actually. Because that's the kind of voice you just don't hear in animated movies.
They come to kill us and take our women and our precious metals.
He's got this great bass voice. And the face they have on looks just like the little Cedric kid.
Sorry. In the movie, I play Mort, who is...
No. No. Happy.
The irony of the story is that these two best friends don't know that in the wild they are natural enemies. He doesn't realize that his friends are actually food that he might eat.
I don't see anything.
How many times have you wanted to take a bite out of your best friend's butt? I mean, it happens.
So to have these two characters that are best friends in great contrast to their sort of natural behavior just made sense from the very start. Along the way, there's a disaster at sea and the crates are washed overboard and the animals wash ashore on the island of Madagascar. When they realize they've been dumped into the wild, it's time to panic for everybody except Marty the zebra, who gets...
On Madagascar is because of a group of displaced penguins who are on a mission of their own.
The penguins are really there for comedy relief.
And they really are whacked. You know, they're just nuts.
They just want to get out of the zoo. And they're this team, well-oiled machine who stick together, follow orders, get the job done.
We're gonna face extreme peril. Private probably won't survive. This film needs...
And then they pop out of it. And this happens quite often.
This film needed to be really active and fun, and a lot of the influences, well, of course,
Wildlife Preserve. Phil?
Progress report. It's an older code, Skipper Ike. Progress report. It's an older code, Skipper Ike can't make it out. You, higher mammal. Can you read?
No, Phil can read, though. Phil?